Hey guys, Master of Lore back again, and today we're diving right back into Middle Earth. Of course, it's my favorite. I mean, what can you say? And yeah, today we're discussing a really interesting topic. One of my favorite, no, not really my favorite, but one of the more interesting human settlements or peoples of Middle Earth, which is the Dunlendings or the Dunedain. I like to call them the Dunedain. It sounds better than the Dunlendings, but what can you do? So yeah, we're going to dive right into it. Hopefully you like this content. And yeah, so I just want to educate you on just some of the brief history. I'm not going right into it, but we're going right over the basic stuff so you get a better understanding of Middle Earth and everything Tolkien's world has to offer. So in the second age of Sun, before the Dunedain came to Middle Earth and made the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor, there lived a tall, dark-haired people in the fertile valleys below the White Mountains. For many centuries, it is said, they developed civilization apart from other people and built many great fortresses of stone. No history tells of the fate of these men of the White Mountains, yet they vanished and only those descendants named Dunlendings remained in their lands. Long before the Dunedain made the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor, Dunlending power had dwindled. The people had become divided. Those who remained in the Dunharrow became allies of the men of Gondor. Others had wandered north and settled peacefully in the land of Bree. Yet most of the Dunlendings had retreated to the hills and plains of Dunland and had become a tribal herding people. Though they kept their language and remained fierce warriors, they became a barbaric folk, as we've seen in the Two Towers. They looked frickin' disgusting. In the 26th century of the Third Age of Men, Gondor granted the Rohirrim a province called Kalindaharan, but the Dunlendings considered it theirs by right. So these two people grew to hate one another, and in the year 2758, a Dunlending named Wolf led a great invasion of his people against the Rohirrim, and was victorious. But this was at a great cost, for in the next year the Rohirrim arose and drove the Dunlendings back into the hills, and Wolf himself was slain. So it was that, for nearly 3 centuries, the Dunlendings remained in the hilllands, and left the fertile valleys to the Rohirrim. Yet they did not forget their hurt, and tall, dark men of Dunland made an evil pact with the rebel wizard Saruman the Great, who had brought vast numbers of the great orcs called Uruk-hai into Isengard. He actually didn't bring them into Isengard, he made them there. I don't know, anyway, yeah. And it is recorded that by some evil act of sorcery, the Dunlendings were breeding and bred with Uruk-hai an evil offspring called half-orcs. Were the result of this union, half-orcs were black, lynx-eyed men with evil orcish features. Combined with the Dunlendings and the great orcs, the half-orcs made a huge army of terrifying strength. Something really, really interesting. I used to think that Uruk-hai were actually a half-men, half-orc. Uruk-hai were a different offset of orcs that were different from the half-orc, half-men, which were the closer guard to Saruman, because they were actually more powerful than both men and orcs. Really, really interesting there. Just wanted to stipulate that so there's no confusion that the Uruk-hai and the half-orcs that were bred between the Dunlendings and orcs were different actual creatures that were actually made by Saruman. So there's a difference there. When the power of Gondor and Rohan seemed to wane, this army gathered in Isengard about the banner of Saruman, White Hand, to fight against the Rohirrim. The Red Book of Westmarch tells how the fierce Dunlings in tall helms and sable shields advanced to the Battle of the Hornburg at Helm's Deep with the Uruk-hai and half-orcs. But the Battle of the Hornburg was a great disaster for the Dunlendings. They were overthrown, and the fierce Uruk-hai and half-orcs were annihilated. Those who were not slain could only sue for peace, promising never again to rise against the Rohirrim conquerors. Now, what's really interesting here is that we don't actually get to see that in the books or the movies. We only see the story advance. I mean, I think it would kind of slow things down if it showed us the fact that the Dunlendings actually sued for peace. But we don't even really see them in the Battle of, like, Helm's Deep, if you think about it. I remember we saw... what was his name? Haldir. Haldir was one of my favorite characters. He was a really small character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That was not even a thing in the books, so that was completely different. But even in the movie, like, we don't see the Dunlendings, and they don't really show a difference between the Uruk-hai, the orcs, and the half-orcs that were bred between men and orcs. So, which I think is, it's not like a bad thing or anything, but some people do get really confused, and they're like, oh, Uruk-hai are half-orcs, half-humans. Not the case. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative and you learned a little bit more about the realms of Middle-earth. We do more prominently see the Dunlendings obviously in the Third Age, because they just happened to kind of spring about around the Second Age, and that's when they were most prominent. Obviously making mistakes, and they were evil, and they went with Saruman, and Saruman the White, when he held his banner of the White Hand, and yeah, they were kind of annihilated at the Battle of Helm's Deep. I wouldn't say annihilated, there were still small amounts of people around, of course, but like I said earlier, they basically all died. I mean, you can't really blame the Rohirrim and the remaining men of Arnor who were with Aragorn. So, I mean, they had to survive, right? Anyway, if you guys like this video, please click like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end if you did, and I hope you enjoyed this content. Take care and have a good one.